Today's episode of Nerd Soup is brought to you by NordVPN. Right now, you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount, plus 4 additional months for free when you go to nordvpn.com/nerdsoup. NordVPN is a great option for those looking to secure their internet. With Nord, all of your internet data stays safe behind a wall of next-generation encryption. When logging into public servers, your information remains vulnerable. But when using one of Nord's private servers, all your sensitive information remains secure. And with over 5,400 servers in 59 countries across the globe, NordVPN lets you enjoy instant secure access to hundreds of streaming websites worldwide. You can connect up to 6 devices to your account, which can be accessed by simply clicking a button. You can enjoy privacy on the go and connect it to your phone, or you can connect to your desktop and tablet at home. And remember, right now you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount, plus 4 additional months for free when you go to nordvpn.com/nerdsoup. That's nordvpn.com/nerdsoup, or you can just click our link in the description box below. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Soup Podcast. This is Bo Oliver here. Just wanted to fill you in at the beginning of this episode on why the audio sounds a little different. We recorded this episode remotely with a friend of the show, Matt Neglia from Next Best Picture. You can follow him at Next Best Picture on Twitter, and also check out his website, nextbestpicture.com. And we're going to be previewing award season on this episode of the Nerd Soup Podcast. The Venice Film Festival, Telluride, TIFF, New York Film Festival, and talking about some of the major movies previewing at these award shows. It was great to have Matt on because he's somebody who really has his finger on the pulse of this industry in this time of the year. He's really excited, and we're excited to talk about these movies. And, of course, you can listen to the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the places for podcasts. And follow us on social media at Nerd Soup, Bo Soup, Nerd Soup Monkey, and Matt at Next Best Picture. All right, I'll just throw it to myself. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Soup Podcast. I am Bo Oliver, joined here today with Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, and special guest, Matt Neglia from Next Best Picture. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Yeah, it kind of happened organically on Twitter.
Yeah, people were commenting saying, oh, you guys should do this, the ultimate crossover sort of thing. And I was like, you know what? I've been a fan of these guys since I came across your Game of Thrones videos a couple years ago, and I was like, man, these guys are fantastic. And I've just been a fan ever since. Been following your content via podcast. I love the animation videos you guys do. You guys kick tons of ass.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, and you're my go-to for all movie news on Twitter. So definitely give them a follow. Next Best Picture. That's how I keep up to date, because Twitter gets a little crazy sometimes, but yeah, sometimes good can come out of it. And we're lucky enough to have you on today.
Yeah, we were just talking on Twitter about how you guys just cover everything. So whenever we have, when we're running low on topics for a podcast, I'll just go to your Twitter account. Let me see what Matt's posted about today. See if I can get anything good.
Yeah, I've been known to be on Twitter a little bit too much. Like, if there is any kind of hidden disease or something like that is going to one day just engulf my body, it's probably going to be from all of the time that I've spent on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, we've been taking Twitter breaks lately, but it is one addicting app, especially film Twitter these days, man.
Oh yeah, no, of course,
It's out of control.
Nowadays, it's like, are you really even in the industry if you're not on Twitter? It feels like it's like
Right.
an essential, necessary evil.
Yeah.
No, that's how I get all my news. It really is. We were talking about before we started recording about CinemaCon. It's like with the Matrix trailers. I had no idea that was even happening, and then I just saw you tweet something about the Matrix. I'm like, oh, guess something.
Yeah.
Guess that's looking good. So
New trailers, casting news. I mean, you name it. You can pretty much just find it nowadays if you curate your search list the right way. It's really just become, I think, a really, really good tool. I do think that some people, go a little out of hand with it and can get a little too negative, to the point that I don't even think people realize sometimes, the impacts that they're having on other people with bullying, negative thoughts, and things like that. So it can be a toxic environment. But, if you curate your timeline and, follow the right people, it can be a really positive thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think one thing film Twitter can all agree on is anticipating is Dune, which is premiering at Venice. Was that next week?
Yes, that is going to be happening end of next week. I'm super excited.
Oh, man. It's
my most anticipated movie for the last 2 years.
It's not Venom?
No, definitely not. Definitely not Venom 2.
Because if it was, then you're gonna get a third year because it got delayed again to 2022.
No,
So
it's
3 years in a
supposedly
row.
I heard today that actually that rumor was shot down. It's still got its release date.
Ah, that's unfortunate. I just wanted to keep getting like at this point, just keep going.
Yeah, but it's like not even just Dune, man. I mean, like this is the time where, with the exception of December, which is definitely a place where studios like to dump a lot of their high-profile, big to mid-budgeted films. We'll get Spider-Man around that time, Matrix 4, or Resurrections, as we've been calling it now lately. We'll also get things like House of Gucci, West Side Story, and it's like besides those, pretty much the bulk of what you're going to see come out in October and November is about to unleash itself over the next few weeks in September. It's going to be absolute madness.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of these movies, I mean, obviously the fall is always big for movies that are going to do well during award season, but it feels like it's way like we're just waiting for the back end this year. That usually you get like some Oscar favorites sprinkled in throughout the year, but not this year.
Nah, because 2021 is still dealing with the ramifications, I think, of the pandemic. So
Right.
a lot of movies that were supposed to come out even last year, like The French Dispatch, have been pushed off to this year. So it's just made this year more stacked than it otherwise normally would have been. And you've still got stuff, like I said, coming out that's not even playing at the film festivals. Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. You've also got
right,
the Will Smith film King Richard, which might be playing at one of the fall film festivals. More on that in a little bit. But there's definitely a lot still to come. Some of them are going to, be hits, and some of them are inevitably going to be failures. And it happens every year. Every year, there's always something that pops up that on paper we look at it and we think, yes, that's going to be great. And then we see it and we're like, okay.
Yeah, especially movies that come out of film festivals. You just, because it's coming out at a film festival, you assume it's going to be great. That's not always the case.
No, but it's something to look out for. You do want to look out for movies that are playing at multiple film festivals, because then that's usually a sign that it had to pass some sort of committee to get approved to play at the festival. So quality has to be there. It's very, very rare that you see a movie play at multiple film festivals. I'm talking like 3 out of 4. And especially if you have a film playing 4 out of the 4, that's the one to really keep an eye on. And right now, so far as we know, there's only one film that is doing that right now.
Oh, shit.
Power of the Dog?
It is Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog.
Yeah, there we go.
So
Dude,
that's going to be
incredible.
Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch, I think if you know anything about the source material for that, I think this is going to be the role of his career so far. I think he's going to tear into this character unlike he's ever done, maybe going back to Sherlock. But, obviously that's on the television side. On the film side, I don't think he's ever had an opportunity quite like he has with this one.
Well, I think Imitation Game was his only nomination.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, he can beat. That was a terrific performance. So if he can outdo that, then that's got to be something special. Yeah, that's the one that really jumped out. Like other, obviously, than Dune or Last Night in Soho for me, because like you said, when I was going through all the lineups, that was the one that just kept popping up. And I think he's also in another movie, right? Coming in.
Yeah, The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne, it's called.
Yeah.
That also stars Claire Foy. And that one will be playing at Toronto and also at Telluride. Well, allegedly. I'm sorry, I've like referenced it like 2 or 3 times now. I got to just say about the Telluride Film Festival. It takes place simultaneously at the same time as Venice. So 1 week from today, the Venice Film Festival will start on September 1st. And that'll run until the 11th. Smack dab in between all that is Telluride, which runs from the 2nd until the 6th. Now, the interesting thing about Telluride is that nobody knows the lineup until you get there. So you're heading into a festival where you don't even know it's going to play. But when they make announcements as to what movie's going to play at Venice, at TIFF, at New York Film Fest, you can look at the premiere status and kind of gauge, oh, okay, this is a US premiere. This is a North American premiere. For Canada, oh, this is a Canadian premiere. And since TIFF takes place after Telluride, if it says it's a Canadian premiere at Toronto, that means it's playing somewhere else in the United States before TIFF. And Venice
Okay.
is, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Venice is
Yeah.
before, and so it can't be that. So it has to be playing a Telluride. So you can like figure it out in a weird way. But like Electrical Life of Lewis Wayne is one of those that, we've been able to deduce.
Okay, that's fun.
Oh, it's a blast trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like playing Clue, when you just have to
Yeah,
mark off all the clues that everybody else has given you.
exactly. I mean, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes there is a complete shocker of a surprise that plays there that you wouldn't even believe that, unless you just wouldn't believe it until you got there.
Yeah.
I've only been there, I mean, I sound like I'm coming off as like some sort of expert here. I've only been there once in person, and that was 2 years ago. I would have gone last year, but COVID. I'm going
Right.
again this year, but I've been covering the fest and following it, and I've spoken to people over the years about it, and it's by far my favorite festival simply because of that mysterious element of you don't know what's playing there until you get there.
Yeah. Well, I heard that's why they removed Clifford from TIFF because they wanted to make it premiere there, right?
Clifford is that is a very, very bizarre case. I don't know what the hell was going on with that other than TIFF. The cool thing about TIFF is that is definitely a festival that mixes many different types of genres. So it's not just going to be, high profile award season contenders, stuffy dramas, things like that. It also will play stuff like they played Halloween a couple of years ago. They played like The Predator. They'll play Knives Out. They'll do mainstream films that definitely appeal to a broad audience at that festival, and movies like Dear Evan Hansen or Clifford before it got pulled. It's not surprising, but at the same time, it's very surprising.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was doing there. Who
I
knows? Maybe
would,
it'll be the new Paddington. Maybe everyone will love it.
regardless of the movie, we all can agree Clifford's a good boy, and that's where we should leave it.
I mean, Ghost is shaking right now.
Having that dog in the city is just animal cruelty. I don't know where he poops. I don't know where he plays. It's just a mess.
It's like that scene in Jurassic Park. It's just Jeff Goldblum
Right.
looking at Clifford shit.
That's a giant pile of Clifford shit. But for the Venice Film Festival, Matt, is The Power of the Dog your most anticipated?
Ooh, my most anticipated truly is Dune. That is premiering at Venice and then going to TIFF after that. It is also playing at New York, so Telluride is the only question mark for it. I do think it is too big of a film to play at Telluride, but Telluride has also played movies like Arrival, Gravity, First Man, so maybe there's a chance, but I'm not putting my hopes and dreams on it. I'll catch it when it rolls around to New York because I'm not going to Venice because I'll be at Telluride. And TIFF I'm covering virtually this year. So they're doing a hybrid of virtual screenings and in-person screenings, whereas Venice and Telluride are all in person. And so is New York, which also kind of bummed me out. But hey, you know what? Filmmakers and distributors right now are pushing to have their films be seen in person. I disagree with it because we're in the middle of a freaking pandemic still, even though people want to think that it's over. It's not. I really do think the access should be more readily available for everyone, but
Yeah,
you
I'm
take what
surprised these other
you take what you
festivals
can
aren't
get.
doing that.
Yeah, no, they're not. It's something that, like I said, is very, very disappointing to me. And with New York happening at the end of September, it's the last one. It will be from the 24th until October 10th. That's a lot of time from where we are now till then. That's 1 month.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, maybe if something was going to happen as far as any kind of a last minute pivot or change, we probably might have heard about it. But I don't know. If I were them, I don't know. I would be a little nervous.
Yeah. Well, Villeneuve was he was very adamant about not wanting to send out digital screeners. So
Yeah, which
it's,
I understand because it's, a very, very large film. It's probably going to be the biggest movie we'll see this year in terms of a movie that needs to be seen on the big screen. I know that people have made those claims about Black Widow or Quiet Place Part 2. There were some summer movies that people were like, oh, you got to see this on the big screen. No. Dune has always been the big screen movie event of the year. And I'm not saying that you have to do it. I think that, it's unfortunate that it's our only option, but I will admit that is a movie that I want to see on the big screen. That's a personal
Yeah.
choice for everyone to make in terms of their safety, comfortability, safety of their families.
Right.
For everyone, it's a personal decision, but in this case, they've kind of taken the decision out of our hands, and they're saying, "Hey, only way you're going to see this is if you go to a theater," which I fundamentally disagree with. But at the same time, I can't deny that they made a big screen theatrical experience that was intended for that format.
Well, yeah, even in TIFF, it's like they're having the IMAX premiere, but I think the press and industry screening is just regular. So
I
even
haven't
that,
really dug into the details about that, but I did see the IMAX screening for the public. Yeah, so
even
I'm
that,
sure though. I'm sure though it'll have great
yeah.
sound and still be on a very great screen.
I mean, I'm not
Uh,
complaining because it's just if we get to see Dune, we get to see Dune. But also, it's
Sure.
like I kind of want.
But
the IMAX.
have you guys had a chance to like kind of look at the TIFF lineup yourselves? I know you guys are heading over there. Like, have you guys like kind of put together a little preliminary list of what to check out?
Yeah, they have this pretty cool app. I made like a tentative like schedule. I think the biggest bummer is Dune and
Last night in Soho.
yes, are playing at the same time. So
Yeah.
that's a big bummer. But I mean, Power of the Dog, definitely gonna want to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Petite Maman,
Celine
stuff
Sciamma. Yeah.
yeah, coming off
Mhm.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So like that's the tough thing about it, is very overwhelming to pick because a lot of these directors and films like you don't really know too much about them. So it's like yeah, a few like The Eyes of Tammy Faye, like that has some star power attached to it, and Dear Evan Hansen has the notoriety, but trying to pick the other ones and try not to miss out on like one of those sleeper films that come out every year. That's like the
Yeah.
tough part.
No, it is for sure. I mean, it's the thing that always gives me anxiety whenever I go to a film festival, especially something like Sundance, which I've become sort of notorious for, where I don't eat, I don't sleep, I don't do anything other than just watch movies when I'm at these damn festivals. So I'll knock out like over 45 movies like in a week or something like that. And it's just a mad rush, of just running from place to place, theater to theater, or even if you're doing it digitally, like we did over the last year. If I had off from work, I was just watching movies from the moment I woke up in the morning at 6 a.m. to the moment I went to bed, pretty close to that time all over again. It's just like very, very minimal sleep and self-care because you want to consume as much as humanly possible because you don't want to be in a situation where it's like, all right, I spent all this time watching all this and I missed that one. I missed that one that everyone is talking about. But that's just me. I mean, other people may not feel that way,
Yeah, well, and especially like too the poster dropped today of Spencer. That's playing. I think it's one of the later ones because I think they said 9th to the 14th are the most of the screenings, and that one happens the 15th. But we leave the 15th, but I think we're gonna try to stop and see that because I think it plays in the morning. So
I also would not be surprised, and granted, I have no idea, but it wouldn't shock me if Spencer was the surprise added screening to New York. It is currently playing 3 out of the 4 festivals. It is playing Venice, Telluride, and TIFF, and the only thing it's missing is New York. A similar film that was by Pablo Larraín, Jackie, starring Natalie Portman in 2016. That too had a similar trajectory where it was an last minute added screening for New York. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Spencer kind of follow in that in those footsteps.
It kind of feels like a spiritual sequel to Jackie.
Yeah, right, like a companion piece in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was staring at
heard.
your tweet today about the poster.
Oh man, that poster is awesome.
It's awesome poster, and then but you put up the picture of Jennifer Lawrence falling at the Oscars, right?
Oh no, I somebody else did. I quote retweeted it, but at the same time, yeah, that was a hilarious. That was a pretty hilarious image. And you know what? She won an Oscar that night when she fell up the stairs. And quite frankly, I think from an early prognosticator standpoint, I do have Kristen Stewart as my number 1 choice right now to win this year.
I hope
Oh,
so.
dude, that would be crazy.
She deserves it. Every time, even like with Pattinson over these past few years, it's like with those movies and the public perception of them, like it still carries over. And
It's so unfortunate that it does too, because they're so much better than those movies let on.
oh, and they're both and they've been fantastic in pretty much everything else they've been in. And it's
Hmm.
like people, some like the general audience still has that perception of them. So every time, same thing with like Dakota Johnson as well from the 50 Shades movies. It's like,
She's got a movie this year too. She's going to
what-
be in Maggie Gyllenhaal's directorial debut, The Lost Daughter, which is also
oh
going to
yes,
star Olivia Colman.
That sounds incredible.
that's
And
playing at New York, right?
That's playing at Venice, Telluride, and New York. It's not going to TIFF.
Jessie Buckley's in that too, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, I remember reading she's playing the younger Olivia Colman.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have gotten a
Yeah,
better actress.
that'll definitely be
She,
interesting.
yeah, she blew me away, and it's slipping my mind.
I'm
I'm
thinking
thinking
of
of
ending things.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought she was so good in that, and Olivia Colman, obviously one of the best actresses working today. So that's gonna be. And Maggie Gyllenhaal, that's her debut. You said, right?
yeah. Directorial debut for her.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not sure if that's playing at TIFF, but it sounds like it's going to be good. I think my most anticipated at TIFF obviously is Dune, but after that, I can't wait to see Bergman Island.
Oh man, really? That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love hearing
somebody
you say
who
that.
well, the premise, it reminds me of The Hour of the Wolf. Just it's so many of Bergman's movies, just it feels like a lot of them take place on desolate islands where people don't know what's real, and so the premise alone has me so intrigued. And Tim Roth, Vicky Krieps, what a power couple.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, I've heard that it does have this uh meta cinematic quality to it that does harken back to Bergman's work. And yeah, I guess from that standpoint, I too am also super excited to catch that one. That's going to be released by IFC Films, and I'm planning to catch that one at New York, but if I've got time, I'll squeeze it in at TIFF. We'll see.
Yeah. I just hope it's like not too on the nose. It's like they're just playing chess for like a whole scene.
Yeah. Cheating death.
But yeah, that's definitely one I'm looking forward to seeing as well. It's so like I said,
Yeah,
there's
just
You know,
Tammy Faye too sounds really. I
yeah,
don't know much about Tammy Faye, so reading up about her, she sounds like a fascinating character for that time period.
yeah, it's interesting because she's someone whose image has kind of been rehabilitated over the years. Obviously, there were negative ramifications to the show that her and her husband ran at the time. But she is someone who's kind of become like this LGBTQ like idol in a lot of ways, and she's been memeified, and like just people absolutely like adore her. So Jessica Chastain, I think the thing that I'm most excited about with this is that we've never seen Jessica Chastain ever transform. She's always kind
Right.
of played, I feel like Miss Sloane and Molly's Game are like her two best performances, but they were both very similar types of characters. Here, there's a vocal change, there's makeup, there's a physicality aspect to it all. I'm just very, very excited to not see Jessica Chastain on screen and see somebody else entirely.
Yeah, that's a good point. It definitely seems like a role where she's going to be able to lose herself in it.
Hmm.
And starring
Totally.
in that with Andrew Garfield, that's the perfect guy to have with you there.
Yeah, no, Garfield is someone who I think is continuously underrated in a lot of ways. And even though Tick Tick Boom is not part of one of the four big festivals in September, that will be the opening night film at AFI, which will follow soon after. But we got to get through these four first before we can get to that.
Right. Well, I'm excited for that. Lin-Manuel's directing, right?
Yep, his featured directorial debut as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
I'm
oh yeah,
excited to see it just from a standpoint of it's a musical. And it's a musical starring Andrew Garfield, who, quite frankly, I think he's an extremely versatile actor, and to kind of see him let loose in a musical format, that to me is exciting.
definitely. I'm surprised like Bo's such a big Lin Manuel guy all of a sudden, but since he refuses to watch Hamilton, but okay.
Hamilton
Hey
is
man,
incredible. What are you doing?
In the Heights, I still have it number 2 on my top 10 list this year. So
I
I
don't want to
don't.
hear about that. I want to hear about why you haven't watched Hamilton.
Well, you know what it is? I don't necessarily love educational rap. So I like when my rappers are like talking about the life, gang banging, stuff like that.
But
So
what
it's
if I
hard.
told you that instead of it being educational, it was just a damn good fucking story?
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell him.
You know what? Honestly, since you guys are peer pressuring me, I may throw it on tonight.
Yes.
Or I may watch Police Story 2 again.
Oh,
It's gonna be a toss-up.
what is happening here? There's one movie that premiered at Sundance early this year, and it's actually making the rounds and playing at a couple of the fall film festivals because Neon really believes in this film, and so do I. It's called Flea. Have you guys heard of this?
I haven't heard of that one.
So Flea is a animated documentary, and it's also a foreign language
Oh,
film.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for this, the other day. I forget what movie I was at, but no, it looks incredible.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's truly a very unique cinematic experience watching this because it's also a highly personal story. The animation is gorgeous. It's a riveting story. And also, on top of all of that, you just have this hybrid of so many different elements coming together for it that it could make history this year at the award season, being, if it gets a Best Picture nomination, not only it would be the first not first animated, but it would be the first documentary to ever be
Right.
nominated for Best Picture. And we could also be looking at a scenario where it's nominated for multiple quote unquote Best Picture categories, animation, documentary, foreign language. So it's got the potential to do some really, really cool things this year.
That's awesome. I don't even. So what? I guess it's like they just animate the narration of the documentary.
Yeah, so they do the interviews and it's all animated, and there are flashbacks through the interviews that he's having with the with the main central figure of the story. And so he's recounting the past, and we see that done through the animation. I mean, it's really incredibly well done. I cannot praise this movie enough.
I want to do Sundance. I've been to Park City, but not during Sundance, and I just love that area. That just
Oh
seems
yeah,
like
it's
a
beautiful.
great time.
Mm-hmm. Another thing too I also want to mention is that Venice, this is like the interesting thing. Venice has a couple of movies that are playing there that are only playing at Venice and nowhere else. So this is usually a red flag. It's something to definitely look out for, but at the same time, it might be movies that don't necessarily need to make the festival rounds, and they just need a platform to premiere. So the movies that fit that definition here are Halloween Kills,
Hell yeah.
and
Wow.
also the Last Duel.
Yes.
Oh,
I think that falls into the it might not be great category.
I'm hopeful for the Last
The last
Duel.
duel.
I have my fingers crossed on this one because I am a huge sucker for medieval, historical, or fantasy epics. So anything set within this time, I'm all there for it. I think Ridley Scott, everyone always talks about Gladiator, but I go to bat for Kingdom of Heaven, the extended cut, might I add. I think that's equally just as well done. Robin Hood, okay, fine, we'll forget that Robin Hood exists, but still, Ridley Scott is a very exciting director who can still deliver a technical showcase, and I think Jodie Comer is the film's secret weapon.
Okay, yeah, that makes. I know it's not like a good way to look at things, but I just like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck together in this
I
setting just
know,
doesn't
I get it.
like Dogma. Fine, this no, I just can't see it.
I totally understand where you're coming from with it. I get it. I hear you. I'm choosing to be optimistic, but at the same time, I recognize that there is a potential negative toxic quality to this that could result in this movie being less than favorably reviewed. I'll just say. Did you guys catch the trailer for Paulo Sorrentino's film, The Hand of God?
didn't see the trailer, but the premise of that movie has me very excited because him setting it in his hometown and with the soccer tie-ins,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't get around to that trailer, but it sounds like it's going to be awesome.
Did you guys see the Great Beauty?
No.
Okay, so that was the movie he won the Oscar for foreign language film for back in 2013. So he's like pretty well known for that. But when you're done with this, watch the trailer. It's like only a minute long, but it just showcases like this incredible visual artistic flair, and the story looks extremely personal. It is in many ways kind of almost like Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, where it's like, he's revisiting his childhood and telling a very personal story. There was an article about it this week in IndieWire of what the film is actually about, and it's really, really tragic and pretty horrifying, but also extremely uplifting at the same time. I had no idea that this
Same.
had happened to him in his life and was the basis for this movie. I think it's going to be a really, really, really special movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of his movies, so I'm excited to see that one. You would recommend The Great Beauty, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
totally. I would definitely recommend at least watching it. I wouldn't say it's a recommendation like, oh, you'll love this, but I think it's worth checking out.
So this is a. It says Netflix. It's gonna
That's
air.
going to be a Netflix title. Yeah, Netflix has a
Okay.
lot of movies going to the fest this year.
dude, so many.
I
Like
mean,
it's
you
like
guys are
every.
going to check out The Guilty, I imagine, right? With Jake Gyllenhaal.
Is that is
That's
that
playing
playing?
at
Oh,
TIFF.
that's playing at TIFF?
Yeah,
Holy shit, dude.
There's so much to even keep up with.
I
Oh,
know.
Antoine Fuqua.
And it's a remake of the foreign language film that came out a few years ago that was really, really well done. It's a small thriller, very simple premise. 911 dispatcher gets a call from someone who's been kidnapped, and he's trying to help navigate her to safety while not alerting the kidnapper that she's reaching out for help.
Interesting.
Mhm.
It's got a great cast too. Is it me or is Peter Sarsgaard in every movie that's coming out this year?
Hey, the guy's a New York working actor. He's got to pay that rent.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's usually a good sign though for the Netflix movies do get some festival premieres because
You didn't go to Cannes, did you, Matt? Sorry to interrupt you, Aaron.
No, I should have. I don't know why I didn't this year. I think I didn't do it because I was worried I wasn't gonna get off from work to go to Telluride. So I was like, all right, I because Cannes was in July. If it was in May, I probably would have been able to go. But because it was July and it was so close to now, I didn't want to like risk being like, oh, I need to take off from work again, and my boss being like, hey, Matt, you just took off. No, I wasn't going to jeopardize that.
Right.
you probably
I
just
was
didn't want
gonna
to
ask
stand
you
for
about
12 minutes clapping.
Hey, you know what? My hands would be beat red at a certain point. I would just be like, fuck it, I give up. Just throw my hands in the air.
I was gonna ask you if you had seen Drive My Car, because that's another one I'd really like to catch at TIFF.
You know what? I love long movies. Genuinely, I truly do. I feel that nowadays we're living in an age where television can effectively tell a story because of the fact that they have so much time to do so, especially with miniseries. And film is, I don't want to say it's struggling, but there are times where I want to see like an epic story just play out over 3 hours to kind of replicate that binge watching television feel. And so seeing Drive My Car being one of the few films this year that's approaching that kind of a runtime does make me very excited for the story that it's going to tell.
Yeah, it looks like it's 3 hours on the dot.
hmm I think
That-
it might be the longest film that's playing at these festivals. I could be wrong about that, but I think it is.
See, in a vacuum, I feel like that's good, but something as hectic as a film festival where that's all like you're doing so much, watching so much throughout the week that might test the endurance a little bit.
Oh, I remember when I was at Telluride 2 years ago and the new Terrence Malick film, A Hidden Life, was playing there. And it was a pain in the ass to just try and fit it in my schedule because, you're basically taking up two slots, from two other movies that you could have been seeing at the same time, but you want to fit it in there somehow. And I agree with you. It's also an endurance test in that regard. And you just hope that it's like good enough that it doesn't, wipe you out because especially when you're so many films deep and you have had minimal amount of sleep, barely eating, you're just like running on empty, trying to get from one thing to another. You're writing in the meantime. This is also something too where it's like you don't just like turn your brain off and just like casually watch. You got to pay attention because you're either having to review these or at the very least, talk about them continuously as we do on our show throughout the rest of the season. So it's like you got to be paying attention to what's going on because once that film festival screening is over, some of these films have distribution and they have release dates and they will come out later. But there are some other ones sometimes where the distribution is so tiny or it's pushed out so far that it gets forgotten about. And it's like, you may never, ever get a chance to ever see that movie ever again.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like all nervous about us reviewing Dune after we get back home because I don't want to forget anything about the movie. So I'm like going to be making mental notes, points that I want to make. And it would be also nice if we get accepted to TIFF, to the New York Film Festival just to have the chance to see it again. But
I have an idea. If you're driving back and it's a long ass drive, download the audiobook.
that's a good point, actually. Yeah, right. It would be a nice refresher.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I
a good
definitely
idea.
plan on revisiting the book after I see the movie again. I read the book many, many years ago. And so I know the basic strokes of what's going to happen in this. And I know this comparison has been made before. Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie of all time. And this has Lord of the Rings kind of written all over it for me, where it is a first entry. If it does well, there's going to be another film and maybe subsequent films after that, or a television series. Who knows? But there is more to come if this does well, because the world is so expansive and there's so much going on in terms of the themes, the characters, and I I feel that there is this enormous amount of pressure on this movie, not just to do well financially, but also too in how well they were able to adapt this material to make it accessible. And so whenever I hear people bringing up that concern, I always point to Lord of the Rings, where I'm like, do you guys like, granted, I don't remember because I was, 11 years old at the time, but I heard chatter, I've read articles, and I've gone back and done my research. People were very skeptical about those movies before they came out. Super skeptical. They
Yeah.
didn't think it was possible that those could be adapted and, brought to a mainstream audience. And I feel that that is what's going to happen with Dune. I think Dune is going to be a pretty big hit overall.
I think people do forget that Lord of the Rings wasn't a no-brainer when it was first made.
Oh,
And I
no, it
think
was like the
Dune had,
biggest gamble in Hollywood history at the time to make those movies.
yeah, and you look at the cast of Dune, the star power that it has. I mean, who knows how it's going to do with the state of the world and also with the simultaneous release. But just hearing that you're optimistic about how it's going to do makes me a bit more optimistic because I want this movie to do well for the future of the franchise and for Denis Villeneuve as a director. I
I
really
mean,
wanted to
also
get
too,
in here
don't you guys want something to replace the void that Game of Thrones has left behind?
desperately.
That's how
From
I
a
feel.
personal standpoint, from a financial standpoint. um, yeah, well, not ways away from the Amazon series, but we got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But it would just be so cool because Dune, it's like, it's obviously got major differences from Star Wars, but it could be Star Wars for grown-ups, for our generation.
I agree. I mean, it's the story that influenced Star Wars.
Right.
So people seem to forget, like, this is the godfather of science fiction.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
yeah.
can't wait.
Just
I know.
rewatching the 1980s Dune the other day, it was giving me chills. The fact that I assume we're going to be getting a better version of it, but just being in that world and knowing we're gonna be in an updated version of that world has me so excited.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I also was revisiting it a couple weeks ago, and I was saying to myself, "Oh, this is pretty terrible," but if done well, if done well.
Pieces are certainly there.
Yep, completely agreed. Other things too, I also just want to mention, lest I forget here. Kenneth Branagh is directing a movie that's premiering at TIFF called Belfast. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's shot in black and white. Also a movie based on his childhood. It's got supporting performances from Jamie Dornan, Judi Dench. The lead kid in the movie, his name is escaping me right now, but he's apparently the lead of the story. And although Kenneth Branagh hasn't really been the most consistent director in terms of quality these last couple of years, I do feel that this is something that is true to his heart and something that he is deeply passionate about, to where I think it will be more akin to the quality of his Shakespeare adaptations, which he was clearly passionate about, and less, oh God, Artemis Fowl.
Right. He was on top of the world when he was coming out with those Shakespeare adaptations, and then his last like 6 or 7 have been kind of questionable, but with you saying that it's going to focus on his upbringing, that it feels like it's going to be a return to form.
I hope so. I really do, because I like Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, I like him as an actor, and obviously his earlier directing credits. He's just fun to watch on screen,
Yeah.
even when he's hamming it up in a movie like Tenet.
Oh yeah, no, completely. Oh God, Tenet. Jesus.
Did you like Tenet?
I did not like it the first time well, actually, let me rephrase that. I didn't know what to make of it the first time I saw it. I was confused. I didn't understand why he sacrificed character development to preserve the twist. I was frustrated by it. I gotta tell you, every single time I've rewatched that movie, and I've rewatched it now 4 times at this point. It gets better and better each time, and I love the experience of just watching it.
Yeah.
It does get better.
I think when I first like saw Tenet, I was I definitely left it like super confused, not really knowing anything that was really happening. But then I was just like, but man, that was freaking cool. I just
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
it's like even if when Nolan does get a little disjointed, it's like no matter what, you're gonna see something you probably have never seen on a screen before. And I, watching it again, following it along, reading up on it, and like with the Wikipedia and everything, and kind of getting a better idea, it definitely gets more much better. I think each time I've watched it since then.
Hmm.
But
Worth the price of admission, definitely just for that. But it's a movie that I feel I've talked myself into liking, just by having so many discussions about it with other people on their
Yeah,
theories, what they think happened.
I
And
I
like you
echo
said,
that.
the more you rewatch it, it just gets better.
Hmm. No, I'm right. I'm right there with you. The same thing has happened to me where I was like, initially, I was like, "Fuck this movie." I like it's worse since The Dark Knight Rises. I was like all up in arms about it, and then yeah, it's like once you know what the movie is about and you know the conclusion of it, it really does make you view the movie differently on a rewatch. In that regard, it's almost like The Prestige, where it is that magic trick, you know.
Right.
Something else I got to mention this because it's just too big to ignore here. The opening night film at New York Film Festival is The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Oh, dude.
Which
I was
is
actually going to
starring,
ask about that.
yeah, starring Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, and written and directed by Joel Cohen, not Ethan, just Joel. First time that it's him and not his brother. So
Is that
apparently,
the same Joel Cohen who wrote Garfield?
no, this is No Country for Old Men, Joel Cohen.
Oh,
Don't
one of
worry.
bro. Okay, okay. I got
Oh, now I'm
confused.
not as excited.
I was confused between those two.
No. Ethan Cohen, there was a report that went out recently saying that he's moved on from filmmaking. He's pursued other interests. There's no bad blood supposedly between the brothers. Just he wants to do something different with, they're getting up there. They're in their 60s now, I believe. So Joel, though, he's working with his wife, Frances McDormand, and Denzel Washington, one of the greatest actors alive, playing Macbeth. Of all the roles you could give to Denzel Washington.
Now, does it like give you any pause that it's only playing at New York? Well, it could be.
I do have some thoughts on this. Yeah,
Okay.
I did overhear that it did submit for Venice, and it got turned down. Granted, just a rumor. No one's ever going to confirm that or anything like that. But it's a big get for New York. It's their big world premiere that they have, so it's a good way to lure people over to that festival. So you're not just showing films that have premiered elsewhere. It's shot in black and white. Here's the very interesting aspect of it for me. It is 105 minutes long.
See that right now, and that shocked me a little.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's going to be a swift tragedy of Macbeth.
I'm just like he's probably going to just cut out like all of the boring bits of Macbeth and just keep all the good stuff, and you might have like a very riveting, film as a result of that.
Just a nonstop Macbeth.
Yeah, just betrayal. More than one tragedy.
Yeah, Corey Hawkins is also in it too.
That's awesome. The cast is, I mean, obviously you have the two heavy hitters, but Ralph Ineson, who's becoming one of my favorites, man. That voice, I could just listen to him talk all day.
Yeah, no, that voice is just straight out of my nightmares. He was excellent in The Green Knight.
Oh, so good. And Brendan Gleeson, another one of my favorites.
Underappreciated actor. Really love him. Yeah. I feel like he never gets the credit that he deserves.
Bruno Delbonnel doing the cinematography, being shot in black and white.
Yeah.
Even if the movie isn't good, I imagine it's going to look good.
That's how I feel too, where I'm just saying to myself, you know what? This is probably going to be a very art house, type of film. That's my guess. I could be totally wrong. It's like I'm not expecting the Coen brothers trademark sense of humor in this necessarily, but I know one thing is for sure, it's going to look stunning.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't love Hail Caesar, but they really don't miss for me.
Not for me either.
Yeah, so for it to, if there are any rumors that maybe it's not as great as his other films, I'm still excited for it.
What was their last?
Um,
Buster Scruggs, right? That was their last project.
Yeah.
Well, together.
yes,
This is separate, obviously, but
No, yeah, and Buster Scruggs was awesome.
yeah, I had a good time with that. But
Uh,
yeah, it's like one thing I did notice, like going through all of them, is that it was only playing at New York. So
it's like you say to yourself sometimes that can be by design because you had in the past movies like, say, Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. That only played in New York, which makes
right,
sense considering, who's involved. But at the same time, you can also factor in that movie was being worked on literally all the way up until it premiered in New York. So it was like down to the wire for it to premiere. There are certain cases where movies need that extra week or two before they premiere somewhere else. They might be tinkering with it up until the last minute. You don't really know.
right.
I don't think that is the case here with this movie. Like I said, the rumor went around that they submitted it for Venice. It didn't get into Venice. New York scooped it up. Hey, good for New York. They got a world premiere as a result of that. But at the same time, it does give me just a little bit of pause. Not to mention it is only one Coen brother and not the other. But we'll see. We'll see how it all kind of shakes out.
Maybe that's what happened with Venice. They're just like, oh, it's only one of you. No deal.
I doubt it, but I mean that would be God, that'd be so petty of them.
I thought we were getting Ethan.
Thought we were getting the combo package here. What's going on?
we're gonna see who's the real brains behind these movies now. Tragedy of Macbeth comes out, it's gonna be like Joel can't win without Ethan.
Well, remember like with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, where everyone's like, "Oh, Matt Damon's clearly the smart one of the
Right.
two," and it's like Ben Affleck went on to freaking win Oscars and make like damn good movies as a director. Like, who's kidding who here?
Well, no, he did that on purpose. That was a strategic maneuver for him to play. For him to play. Why can't I think? This happened to me the other day too. I couldn't remember the name. With the Robin Williams.
Daredevil?
No.
Oh, Goodwill Hunting?
Goodwill Hunting. I can't. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Well, that was like a strategic move. He plays Will Hunting, so in the brains of the audiences, it's like, oh, Matt Damon's just a smart one in this duo, and
Yeah.
that just stuck with him until in real life as well, I guess. But
One of my favorite Family Guy cutaways is when Matt Damon finishes the Goodwill Hunting script, and Matt Damon's just on the couch farting and eating Cheetos, or Ben Affleck's on the couch, and he's like, "Well, we did it. We finished our script." Matt Damon's like, "All you did was eat Cheetos and smoke pot." But
Now-
he's turned out to be like you said, maybe I don't know about better filmmaker because Matt Damon more producer and actor, but Ben Affleck can direct his ass off, man, and he's
Oh,
proven
yeah.
that.
I mean, Live by Night aside, the guy hasn't missed.
Right. I almost
Uh,
rewatched that the other night.
The
Why?
other thing too, I got to just add with this because I was already impressed with the New York lineup. I was already anticipating it, and then all of a sudden they have to go ahead and they add all these incredible movies to the lineup to just make it, in my opinion, the best lineup of all of the festivals. It's like a combination of not just what's playing at Venice, at TIFF, but what played at Cannes earlier this year. So you've got Come On, the Mike Mills film starring Joaquin Phoenix that's going to be at New York. We previously mentioned Dune. We mentioned The Lost Daughter. They also added Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch to play there. And then also on top of that, we got the new film from Sean Baker, Red Rocket. All these are going to New York. Like that's just insane to me.
Yeah, that was something I did notice was the French Dispatch being playing at New York as well. I mean, for me, talk about people who can't miss. I just love Wes Anderson, so this is one of my most highly anticipated films of the year, and the lineup is like you said. Is Last Night in Soho playing there too, or
Last Night in Soho is only playing at Venice and TIFF.
oh man, we might have to skip Dune.
Oh man,
I'm joking.
I don't know.
I'm joking. But
Listen. Last Night in Soho comes out before Dune in October, so
yeah, it's not that long of a wait.
That's true,
No.
right? Yeah, that's a Thursday night movie. Get a nice slushy.
For Last Night in
See that
Soho?
video. Yeah, you don't think that's a slushy movie?
No.
I just like slushies these days. Everything's become a slushy movie for me.
Dune,
Hey,
you get your slushy.
hey, you know what? Last night in Slushy. Am I right?
Exactly. I'm really excited for Red Rocket. The premise sounds hilarious. Like a former porn star who returns to his hometown in Texas.
Yeah, played by
I
Simon Rex, like, from the Scary Movie films. I mean, like,
So he tweeted at you the other day, right? Because you,
he did. Yeah,
yeah.
he did. Yeah, that was pretty wild. I was like, oh my God. Like,
That's so awesome.
I love that Sean Baker has this quality of making these really seemingly authentic stories about people that you can just encounter on the streets, like everyday people.
Oh yeah.
And it's something that I just find to be so appealing because he's able to really like dial into like these very, very specific walks of life that highlight, the problems that they're going through on an everyday basis. And obviously there are like these heightened elements, like this guy being a former porn star and all, but at the same time I just find that he gets some really raw performances like out of his actors, and he's got such a great eye for visuals. His movies always look so vibrant and lush. I mean, if you guys saw the Florida Project, whew, man.
Yeah. It was one of my favorite movies of that year.
Hmm.
And like you said, the walks of life, it feels like these are people that you could encounter. Like you said, walking down the road,
Yep.
and them staying at the inn. I've stayed at motels like that on family trips. You have all your cast of characters. It's like his movies just they seep into reality, and he manages to create something that's his style, but it is
Yeah.
so based in reality. Even a Tangerine, that was
Hmm.
I remember one of my friends told me, "Hey, check this out. It's shot on an iPhone." And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But yeah, I mean, and this one sounds like it may have I mean, there are elements of comedy to his movies, but this one sounds like it could be more comedic than his previous two.
Oh yeah, no, I'm getting a sense of that as well. There's only been one clip that's been released from it so far, and already you kind of get a sense of that.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite kind of underrated filmmakers working today. So when I saw that listed for the New York Film Festival, I was really excited about the prospect of being accepted and maybe getting the chance to see it. And that's a has that been shown anywhere yet? Red Rocket?
Yeah, it premiered at Cannes earlier this year.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder what the reviews are like. I imagine Oh, that was another question we had for you.
Hmm.
So when we watch Dune at TIFF, I imagine that they're gonna let us know about embargoes or for any movies that we watch, right?
I would imagine so.
'Cause
You
it
know,
seems like some movies
yeah.
come out and then I on Letterboxd, the critics I follow, like, a couple of the movies that you've seen where I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay, Matt likes this, I'll put that on my watch list, keep an eye on it." But
Hmm.
sometimes the movies that people watch, they're not allowed to review them.
Yes. No, that
Okay.
is true. If you do get an embargo communicated towards you, you do want to follow it. I have seen people break social embargoes, even when they are enforced at film festivals. I, I listen. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just saying, if you get an embargo, it's best not to piss people off, and you should follow it.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna follow those embargoes. D Day after Dune, it's like Nerd Soup's 3-hour spoiler review for Dune.
Oh man. Well, just be careful because you don't want to, especially if you're trying to make your way into the industry and trying to gain favor with some of the publicity people who are the ones who get you into junkets, interviews, screenings, things of that nature. um Embargoes are their way of controlling when people react to a film. It's all specifically timed so that this
Right.
way they're controlling like the narrative a little bit, and it's all a way of it's how the publicity game is run. So you don't ever want to mess that up, because here's the thing: if you break embargo, someone's going to see that you broke embargo, then they will break embargo, and then they'll just be like, oh, I thought the embargo lifted. And so it just starts a
Right.
chain reaction, and then all of a sudden you've messed up the publicist's plans.
Right, I imagine it's part of the marketing plan, you know?
the movie's
Exactly.
if you know you have a good movie, you may want to wait a week before it comes out, and just open the floodgates, overwhelmingly positive. People get more excited.
Now, to be completely honest with you, at film festivals, historically, there's no embargoes. You're there to react. You're there to write reviews. You're there to get that initial buzz started. I have heard of embargoes being done at film festivals. I have heard people ignoring those because, once again, that's the whole purpose of why you're there. You're there as press to ultimately get that initial buzz out early so that this way then people remember that buzz like a shockwave, and it will resonate with people to then buy a ticket when the film does come out.
That makes sense. I don't know. It is fun, like when you're anticipating a movie though, and the embargo lifts at this time, and you're just waiting on Twitter to see what everyone has to say.
Oh yeah, no, I love
Oh
it.
yeah, dude, definitely. With the Marvel movies, just over the last 10 years, that's been one of the most exciting parts. It's checking the rumors of when the embargo is going to lift, having it confirmed, waking
Mhm.
up at Tuesday at 10 a.m. when the week the movie comes out.
Yeah,
But a
it's
movie
true.
like Dune, obviously, it looks like we'll have we may get some word of mouth coming out of Venice,
Yes,
but
you
that's
will.
that's a movie where I just want to avoid everything about it. It's
I,
giving me 2015 Star Wars vibes.
I mean, if people were to just do one word reactions to Dune, that would be enough for me. Epic,
I'll take that.
masterpiece. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Like I'm good. I'm good at that point.
even if they can't say if they liked it or not, I would read into like how they'll tweet like, "Oh, just saw Dune." How they tweeted it, what exclamations, what font, like I'll tell if it's good or bad or not.
Sure, sure.
Just
I,
saw
I
Dune, period. I'm like, oof,
I'm
that's
sure
rough.
there's. I'm sure you're even going to see people that will say stuff like, "I just saw Dune," speechless. Like
Yeah.
some people are going to have that kind of reaction to it, I imagine. And you know what? Like for all the hype around it, it's interesting because I was thinking about the other day having a conversation with a friend of mine about we were talking about how hype can kill a movie, because it gets overhyped. And with Dune, I do feel like there is a bit of overhypeness. I'm definitely victim of that. I've
Yeah,
been, eagerly anticipating this movie.
for
But I
years.
see an equal, if not greater, amount of people that are downplaying this movie and saying it's going to fail. And you know what? Whenever people have their expectations set low, that's usually the recipe then for success because it will then have the ability to maybe surpass your expectations.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot too, where people are, I guess it's the natural contrarian response to a movie that has been so hyped. It seems like Denis Villeneuve is film Twitter's favorite director. You rarely see people ever criticizing his films, but now that the movie is so hyped, you're seeing people nitpick his style or saying that maybe this person could have been better casted or talking about it's going to fail at the box office. So I hope you're right. I hope all of this kind of works in Dune's favor.
It's
Yeah.
like
I mean, you
even
know who's the ultimate king of that, right? Is James Cameron. People talked about
Oh,
Titanic
right.
and Avatar failing before they came out, how they were over budget, how they were, experiencing all these delays in production, and then the movies come out and they're like, James Cameron's like, oh, fuck you guys. Like,
yeah.
And
We
it's
talked.
starting with Avatar 2. It's the
oh
same
God, see,
thing.
like that's another one where it's like it's happening again. Everybody's like, when are these ever coming out? Oh my God, like already the backlash has already begun before the movie comes out, and then you know what's gonna happen? James Cameron's gonna unleash those movies, and he's gonna remind everyone once again why he's James freaking Cameron.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
he's gonna talk his shit, and we're all gonna get annoyed with him talking his shit.
It's
that's
so
the thing with
true.
James Cameron. It's like I love him, but I also like can't stand him.
Like, yeah,
He's such a good filmmaker, but yeah.
It's like, why do you have to be so good? Uh, but yeah, we were talking about this on the pod the other day. It's like when people talk about Villeneuve's like history in the box office, and they just really just point to Blade Runner. 'Cause I'm pretty sure like Arrival, Prisoners, like they all Sicario had all great returns. Not great like in terms of like Marvel movies, but in terms of like their budget. So I think obviously with Blade Runner, that was unfortunate that that movie didn't get as much love as it did. But I think this is just a completely different animal, and obviously, like we said, it's like with the current state of the world, it might not be a fair indicator of how successful this movie is, but we
agreed.
just hope that like whatever analytics they use or how they judge these movies now in this climate that they see enough from it where they're like, all right, yeah, let's go ahead, let's film part two, let's do the Benny Gesserit series, let's move forward with all things Dune, because that's really
You know what's going to be
the scenario.
you know what's going to be the indicator of that is going to be probably how many people watch it on HBO Max.
Yeah, I don't know
Because
how
yeah,
they gauge that or like what they judge to be successful. Even with the Premier Access on Disney, even though that's monetary value attached to it, but it's like, do they attribute views to this many new subscribers? So that's how they know how well this movie did
I mean,
for.
that's the whole purpose for why they did what they did. I think that they knew when they made the decision last year to make everything day and date release with HBO Max. I think that they knew we're definitely going to suffer a loss on this, but long term, they were hoping that they would gain enough subscribers throughout this year that it would then sustain them for the long term. That I think is like what was the idea behind it. Unfortunately, even for stuff like the Suicide Squad, which I thought was going to be a surefire box office hit, that underperformed dramatically.
Mhm.
And now Reminiscence just released this past weekend, and it couldn't even crack the top 5 in the box
Yeah,
office. So yeah, I mean, if Dune releases and does not do well at the box office, and when I say well, I am putting an asterisk next to that. I, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I really do hope that they look at all of the factors and they consider that when they decide to greenlight the next film or not, because I don't want to see another David Fincher Girl with the Dragon Tattoo on our hands here.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm still upset about that.
I mean, we look at movies that haven't had the dual release. Free Guy has been doing relatively well, and I guess we'll get an indicator with Shang-Chi because they're just gonna release that as they would normally without the Premier Access. So
I'm curious because I feel like the reviews for that have been better than Black Widow, but Black Widow already had like the established fan base.
mhm.
So yeah, I'm very, very curious to see how Shang-Chi does as well. I really like the film, and I like it more than Black Widow, actually. I found it to be a really, really cool entry for this character into the franchise, and there's a great story at its center in terms of the relationship between him and his father, played by Tony Leung. It's really, really well done. It's a little messy in the third act, but overall, that's a pretty solid entry.
Nice. Yeah.
How is the hand-to-hand combat in that movie?
Oh man,
I'm
in
hearing
the
it's
earlier
incredible.
scenes, like yeah, in the earlier scenes before it becomes like a CGI fest in the third act, it's some of the best work that Marvel has done with their hand-to-hand fight scenes, probably since the Winter Soldier.
Oh, dude, that's music to my ears. Just seeing that TV spot of him fighting on the train with the jacket,
Oh
giving
yeah,
me
no, that's a
fl
great scene, totally.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's I mean, to hear that it turns into a CGI third act, okay. Not so thrilled about that. But if we're getting some Winter Soldier hand to hand on the ground combat, sign me up for that. That's mostly what I want from this movie. And story, of course.
yeah, no,
But
the story is particularly very strong. I really enjoyed the story a lot, and there will be definitely inevitable comparisons, I'm sure, to Snake Eyes, which premiered earlier this year. Also, a big high budgeted studio film with an Asian cast, and you know, I think that when people see Shang Chi, they'll realize like, okay, this is how you do it.
right. Yeah, and I hear Tony Leung just steals the movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I expected that going into it, but he just adds a level of gravitas to that role that makes everything so much more dramatically compelling, and it really invests you in the story emotionally.
Yeah. Well, I have a bet with Teddy that that's going to do better at the box office than the Eternals, so I'm hoping for the best.
That's interesting because the Internals has bigger names in it in terms of actors, but it's such an ensemble film and so many new characters that people are not really aware of who these like characters are. Like who are the Internals? No one really knows. And with Guardians of the Galaxy, people said the same thing, but I don't know. I just like I mean, I'm going to see it, and I'm very excited because Chloe Zhao, you know, who's coming off of a historic Oscar win last year. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know about the average viewer and how they're feeling about this.
You know, Feige was super excited that he could put Academy Award winning director in the trailer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I loved I love when that quote came out from him about like saying how, you know, she shoots on these real life landscapes and they're just so beautiful. It's like some of the best images like I've ever seen in our franchise. And it's like, wow, Kevin Feige realizes that you can make real life look better than green screen. Like,
Yeah. I mean, Nomadland was not my favorite movie by any means, but like that was just one of the more like definitely deserved like one of the better like jobs directing I've seen in like the past couple of years because it was just at times just the atmosphere created was like mesmerizing. Even though like the movie itself for me wasn't as like super interesting or I wasn't like locked in that aspect, story aspect, just everything else from a technical standpoint was just spot on.
oh yeah, the
So
visuals in that also too, like she just has such a distinct style, I feel like, and I think that that's going to continue even in this. I know people are super worried because the MCU has its own distinct style, and a lot of people in my circles especially hate seeing these auteur directors who are really carving out names for themselves. They then go and they do a Marvel movie and it's like their voice kind of gets lost
right.
amongst all the typical MCU like tropes that we typically see. So I'm hopeful that she can retain what she's already established with movies like The Rider and Nomadland and bring that over to this.
Definitely.
What's so frustrating about the MCU for me, I'm a fanboy. I love every movie that they come out with, but the way that they just dampen the visual voice of their directors, because coming off of Nomadland, the cinematography, you know, shooting during the golden hour, it's gorgeous. You can watch that
Mhm.
movie with the sound off and still enjoy it. But even in the trailer for Eternals, it's still there. It's still her visual style, but everything always feels so washed out. I don't know why they don't let their movies pop like DC does. That's always a frustrating point for the MCU with me.
I do not know. I don't
I don't get
I
it.
think it's because of the continuity aspect of the storytelling. They just want
Yeah,
everything to feel like it's one big story told through these interconnected films. That's probably my guess.
I think the Avengers set that precedent, so I blame Joss Whedon. Which at this point everyone's been piling up on him, so there's one more thing.
Yeah.
But
So before we wrap this up, Matt, is there any other movies you want to hit on that are coming out over the next couple of weeks?
I mean,
I
we
know
could
you
be
must be just so excited.
I was going to say we could be here all night. But you know, there's always going to be something or another here or there. I mean, there's the Humans that I'm excited about with
Yes.
yeah.
yes.
Beanie Feldstein, Richard Jenkins, Amy Schumer, Stephen Yeun, and Jane Houdyshell, I think her name is. She is reprising the role that she did on the stage that she won the Tony for this show.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one popped out to me too, and I think there's a couple here for TIFF because I think the Survivor, Barry Levinson,
Oh
and
man, I'm still waiting for Ben Foster to get recognized, man.
yes,
Dude,
uh,
he's another under the radar guy.
Mm-hmm.
and then Ali and Ava, and I read up on. I want to
Oh
go
yeah,
see.
that looked interesting too. Yeah.
So, and Silent Night, you have some name recognition there. That's the thing. It's like you always like, oh, like Keira Knightley. It's like I know her, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
that will be um good. The
That
Mad Woman's Ball with Melanie Laurent, I think directing and acting.
I've heard
So
that's good. I've heard that's good.
yeah,
Or I
just
heard,
so
well, I heard it's going to be good at least. I don't know. I mean,
okay.
all these movies to one degree or another, you like kind of get like people whispering in your ear saying, "Oh, like look out for this," you know? Oh, like and it's usually a lot of people sometimes like at the studio or something or another where they're like, "Oh, we're really excited about it." So you get like this kind of early buzz, but it's sometimes like hard to believe what's true and what's not because everyone, of course, says that their movie is going to be great. Um, but at least that's one that I've heard. It sounds like it's going to be something interesting.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a really fun couple of months here
Oh
leading
yeah,
up.
I mean September is going to be absolutely it's going to be a madhouse. And then
Right.
October is going to be a lot of these movies releasing, and then it'll slow down just ever so slightly. And then, November and December is where it's going to kind of like I said, kick back up again, because that's when it won't necessarily be film festivals, but it's going to be these bigger high profile release films that will come out like in theaters, and we'll be getting excited for those. And of course, by that point, award season will have started in terms of the critics awards and things of that nature. So you're going to be hearing about like some of the movies that we've talked about today. You're going to be hearing about these movies a lot now, with some exceptions. I don't think that we're going to be hearing about Dear Evan Hansen or a few others that much, but I don't know. We'll see. It's like you never really know. Even sometimes when things look kind of questionable on paper, sometimes they just play, and you're like, what? The Peter Farrelly film? What's it called? Green Book? That was what? And it's like you just never know. You never know what's going to take people by storm.
He's got another one coming out that people aren't so thrilled about, right?
Oh God, I hope not. I know that Aaron Sorkin does.
Okay.
Called
I can't remember.
I think it's called Being the Ricardos. It's with Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem.
Oh, it's going to be about Lucy?
Yeah.
Lucille Ball?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not even to make a pun, I do love Lucy, so I hope that's good.
That sucks.
I
That's
like
terrible.
Aaron Sorkin as a writer. I think he is a very average director so far. So I don't know.
And
We'll
he's
see.
like you said, you can't deny that he's a talented writer, but for me he's hit or miss. It's like the script's either going to be golden, or it's going to have me just scratching my head, an annoyance.
Yeah, see, I typically tend to lean on the positive side of his scripts. I like most of his scripts. So I think it's just I really, really like the degree to which his characters I know it's not natural, and I know it's like kind of pretentious at times, but I really, really do like that his characters speak with a high level of intelligence. I don't know
Right.
why I find that so appealing, but I do.
Yeah, I think the Trial of the Chicago 7 could have used a different director.
Oh
Where the
yeah, if
script
you
was-
take that script and put it with a different director, I think that movie is instantly 5 times better.
Well, apparently it was supposed to be Spielberg.
Originally,
Which,
yeah.
To me, that sounds like the perfect recipe.
It doesn't feel like when you watch the movie, it feels like he almost was like emulating Spielberg in a sort of weird way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like he was like trying to do it, but it's like, yeah, man, you can't be Steven Spielberg. Come on.
No, I mean, nobody moves the camera like that, man.
I mean, Spielberg's about to find that out. I feel like this year, where it's like you can't remake West Side Story. What are you trying to do here, man?
Well, he's gonna try it out. I'm actually excited for that.
Like,
but-
I know you're one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and I know I shouldn't doubt you. And Tony Kushner's writing the screenplay. Like, I get it. Like, all of this sounds great on paper. God, I just feel like West Side Story is one of those movies where, like, I'm just like, why are we doing this? Why? I understand maybe wanting to tell this story and really give some people of color actors the opportunity to bring these roles to the screen and everything, but like, man, I just like
It feels
what's
like one of those
what's next?
untouchable masterpieces.
Yeah, like what's next? We're gonna get like The Sound of Music. We're gonna do The Godfather. When's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest remake coming out? Like, what are we doing here, people?
yeah, that's
It's a movie so of its time too. The original West Side Story, the way they honored the play.
I will admit, I definitely have my guard up with that one a lot, and it's not just because of Ansel Elgort. Believe me.
yeah, that's right. Oh my god,
That's another weird situation.
That's going to be rough for that PR team to navigate through. Otherwise, yeah, no, I'm good.
Well, it was great to have you on, man, because you really just have your finger on the pulse for all the movies that are coming out over the next couple of months. We'd love to get you back on again when we approach Oscar season. I was just thinking about that in my head.
Oh yeah, I never turned down the opportunity to talk about Oscar season. The question is just whether or not if I'm available.
Yeah, I can imagine that for you. That's that's like tax season for an accountant, you know?
It kind of
So
is.
much going on.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy actually. I've never thought of it that way, but that's actually something I'm probably going to take with me. It also sucks too that my day job is also the busiest at that time of the year as well. So yeah, typically like by the time we get to by the time Sundance is over, usually that's when I start to kind of like not necessarily quiet down, but like I don't know, it's like you're out of the previous year, you're in the new calendar year, so the theatrical releases are not as I gotta go see everything. You know, it's like the
Yeah,
dumping
time.
ground, you know,
Yeah.
for the studios at that time. So things do slow down just ever so slightly, but then there were a lot of like events you have to cover and a lot of televised shows, except like Golden Globes this year. We're not gonna have to worry about that. So
No. I think it's actually I'm excited for this award season just because like with everything last year, even this year, it took me a while to kind of get back into the groove of like knowing when new releases come out and being on top of everything because everything just kept changing so much last year. There was a point where I was just like, whatever, this is exhausting. So like I'm just gonna wait and whenever it's available, it's available. If not, like it got too much. But now that this year it seems to be picking up and it seems like we're gearing up towards some sense of normalcy. It's gonna be fun to see like you said, just uh a cumulative effect of just movies being pushed back and kind of all culminating at the end of this award season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that at the end of the day here, you know, there are some people who treat award season exactly as it sounds in its title. You talk about awards during a season, and that's totally cool. You know, I've definitely been at the end of people saying like, "Yo, award season's over. Give it a break. Like seriously, don't talk about this shit for like another couple of months. Like for the love of God." For some people like myself and a few others out there who also do what I do, award season is never truly over.
I
And
like that.
Right.
yeah, like the idea of giving out awards, sure, like that part of it is over. But the idea of what Next Best Picture is all about, which is we're looking for, yes, Next Best Picture, the Best Picture Oscar winner, but it extends to more than that. It's looking for those Oscar contenders throughout the year. You know, it's analyzing when Luca comes out. Oh, do we think this will be nominated for Best Animated Feature along with maybe Mitchell's and the Machines? You know, and having those kinds of conversations early. And I feel that these are conversations people start having later. This is the stuff that we talk about all year long. And that to me makes it all the more very exciting because you feel like you're going on a very personal journey then with the films that you really, really love. And sometimes even the films that you're scared of, that you're like, I really hope this doesn't become an awards contender. And sure
Yeah.
enough, it starts to. But at the end of the day, it's all it is. It's like a political campaign, but with less stakes.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So you can have fun with it.
Yeah, people are campaigning. There are
Yeah.
these events. There's a lot of handshaking and there's a lot of whining and dining and stuff and like weird things like that. But then there's also the competitive element to it. And then you start getting into the whole rooting for favorites. Everybody has like a different way of approaching it. Me, I like to just view it as almost like a spectator sport of just kicking back, relaxing, and saying, all right, let's see these films do battle. Let's see what wins out. And you use a lot of factors to analyze that. You look at box office, you look at reviews, you look at a film's accessibility, you look at narratives for the filmmakers, for the actors. Like Will Smith right now for King Richard, he has a tremendous narrative that could propel him to a Best Actor win for the Oscar. But so does someone like Benedict Cumberbatch, who's been turning in some excellent work these last couple of years with The Power of the Dog. So which one is going to win out in the end? Like this is like kind of a story that we're already writing before we've even seen these films. And it's just we do it for fun. You know, it's like nobody should take this stuff that seriously. The world is not going to end because a film lost or didn't get nominated for an Oscar.
Right. And I see like you said, like how it's a year-round thing. I always hate like early on in the year performances. Most typically performances kind of get like they don't have the staying power as they do towards the end of the year. So that's always
People's attention spans are short, you know, unfortunately. But a movie like Flea, as I mentioned earlier, premiered at Sundance, got great reviews, and the studio is bringing it back. and they're doing this to kind of
Like a
show it.
refresher.
Exactly. And so not many films are doing that. There's very, very small amount of movies. Like Petite Maman is one that premiered at Berlin back in the spring. Passing is another one from Netflix that premiered at Sundance. So very, very few films are doing that. But it's always fascinating. It's always fascinating to me to see which ones are, which ones aren't. I'm sure you guys heard about this movie called Mass that premiered at Sundance, right?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, guys. This is like my favorite film of the year. This movie is incredible.
Oh shit!
It is, the whole movie is 4 actors in a room talking. And it is the most riveting,
Jason
dramatic movie I've seen all year. It is incredible.
I'm sold.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it based off a play? Because every time I see a movie like that's limited sets, I'm like, oh, it's got to be a play.
it feels like it is, but it's not. It's an original screenplay, and it's basically about 2 parents of the victim of a gun shooting in a school meeting the shooter's parents
Oh wow,
for a conversation.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's
it's a
so
comedy.
intense. Oh no. I mean, there are some tensely awkward moments that do result in some unintentional comedy, maybe depending on how you look at it. But I mean, that is a heavy movie, and if you like your movies hitting you in the gut repeatedly over and over to the point that your eyes start just tearing up from all the hits, this is one that's going to do it for you. I mean, the performances in it are still some of the best I've seen this year.
Well,
Anyway,
one of
my
my
point,
favorites, man.
but my point about this is that that's a movie that's not going to any of the fall film festivals, and they're just releasing it in October. So it's interesting to look at, well, why did this movie do that, but this one didn't? You know, so is that going to hurt it in the end? There are all these questions that you can ask as a way of looking at all of this and kind of, like I said, playing almost like mental chess, making moves and seeing what works and what doesn't.
right. Well, I think
It
we're
really is like a political campaign.
yeah,
Exactly.
we're all looking forward to it. I think we're all looking forward to this upcoming award season, festival season, and like we said in the beginning, I think definitely give you're at Next Best Picture right on Twitter or Matt Neglia. Which one's you're
At Next Best Picture.
Okay, yeah, definitely give him a follow if you don't already, because if you want to be in the know about everything that's going on with the festival's award season, you're the man to follow. I'm confident in saying that.
I really appreciate that. Thanks.
No
Really the
problem.
best in the business, dude.
Oh
The
no,
way
no,
that
no!
you guys,
I'm not the best. I'm truly not. But I appreciate the kind words, though. Seriously.
it's like I can't imagine doing what you do, to tell you the truth. The
Hey, you
amount
know
of shit
what?
that you guys just cover, it's super impressive, super informative. If you love films, you got to follow Matt.
I gotta say too, like I get people asking me all the time, how come you don't have any video content? How come you guys aren't on YouTube? Things like that. To your point, there are only so many hours in a day, and I do need
Right.
to sleep. I know people make jokes that I never sleep, and it's true. I don't sleep a lot, but I don't know how you guys record your shows. I don't know how the hell you guys do the animation. I'm just like, I am amazed by that. Like that stuff just blows my mind every time I see it.
Yeah, it's well.
Petty is a man of many skills. People don't realize that he's the octopus in the chair, making all the moves,
Yeah.
doing everything.
But it's definitely, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different like ways to create contact with either videos or animation or even audio only podcasts. So I think it's definitely fun to like dip your toe into like a little bit of everything and kind of just see what works. And I think it really depends. Like obviously the animation's fun, but like something like an hour-long podcast, it's just if we were to animate and video that, that would just be our whole lives. So it's definitely I don't know. It's definitely fun. He's the animation guy, so I kind of just let him do all the dirty work.
You just show up and just speak into the microphone.
I'm more of yeah, I just let my voice do the talking.
Well, that's why I love your bio on Twitter, man. Genetically altered to talk about movies. That's your job, man, and you do it well.
I like do audio and video and stuff. Don't make it sound like I don't do anything.
Well, okay. Well, guys, that is the end of today's podcast. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Aaron, get on that audio and video stuff you were talking about. And for me, I am Bo Oliver. Once again, like I said, thank you guys for listening. And we will be back next week. And hopefully we'll have Matt back on sometime soon.
I'm looking
All right,
forward
guys,
to it.
peace. Oops, sorry, I cut off your goodbye, Matt.
That's okay.
Such in the spirit of Nerd Soup, just awkward ass endings.
Damn, we were making some good points in that video. Hey guys, Aaron and Nerd Soup Monkey here. Before we end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. What can I say about you guys that I haven't already said about myself? You are the most important part of the channel and the main reason we keep going strong. Like Bo says, you keep the lights on in the fridge, so the fridge is full. Or something like that. So, from everyone here at Nerd Soup, I'd like to thank you guys for your continued support. If you're interested in joining the ranks of our Patreon supporters, head over to patreon.com/nerdsoup and check out the rewards we offer to our patrons. We recently dropped some new stickers for you guys to check out, or you could choose a tier that will allow you to select a movie, show, or video game for us to review. We've got a full slate of fan-suggested reviews coming your way, and we're really excited about the chance to review some of those movies and shows. We've also got t-shirts, mugs, behind-the-scenes videos showing how we bring our videos to life. And once again, thank you to all our Patreon pledgers who have been supporting us throughout the years. Without you, we wouldn't be able to convert all your pledges into cryptocurrency, so thank you from my future self for making us rich.